Okay, our storm drain is in. I have cleaned up the map by unchecking the user layers, and I've selected the external layers group. Now I have the buildings and walls in lesson 4 tutorial, and I can just drag that data onto the map. And if you'd like, you can change the color of the buildings. So if you double click the layer, you can come to the color. Well, you can do two things here. You can set the stroke style of the exterior border to no pen. That will stop writing that exterior outline of the buildings. And then you can change this to a different color. Let's try violet. Yay! Another one works. I'm just using this as an experiment to change all of these colors. And that would be the change of color of the buildings. If you right click and open the attribute table, you'll see that buildings require 3 fields of data. One will decide whether or not to initiate a collapse when the model runs. One will calculate the area reduction factor, and one will calculate the width reduction factor. In this shallow overland flow, I typically only use the area reduction factor. The width and the collapse and width reduction factors are both turned off. In a tailings dam simulation or a dam breach simulation or a large river flow, I might turn the collapse feature on for buildings. The grid tools is where you assign buildings. So if you don't forget to collapse all the layers and then open the grid tools, and we'll assign buildings with this button here that is to calculate the reduction factors. We set this to the external layer called buildings, and the collapse field goes to collapse. Even though it's not there, it still has to be chosen. The ARF field, even though we set them all to 0, we still need to assign it in this editor or else it won't work. The area reduction field goes to ARF and the width reduction field goes to WRF, and I click OK. And what that has done is it has copied our buildings to a new layer, well, another layer. It's not new, it's a layer that was already in here. And I'll show it to you as soon as the calculator is complete. Okay, calculator is complete. And now I can turn these buildings off, and I can open these, and you can see that the blocked areas now represent our buildings. And we also have buildings assigned to the area reduction, to the schematized data, where of course that is where the buildings go in the schematized data. Okay, and that is how to load and assign buildings. Now let me show you something. Well, let's get back here and we'll turn our blocked areas on. Okay, so what buildings do is they collect flow, like rainfall. If you have, like what we did when we set up our rainfall is we turned on the building rain switch, and any rain that rains onto a building will run off the building per the grid elevation that's assigned to these buildings. And any flow that rains or overland flow that is happening down here off the buildings, once they come up against the building, we'll have to find a way to run around or between buildings. So the purpose of the area and width reduction factors is to force water around occupied space. So if you don't turn the building switch on, your buildings may act like a sink, so you don't want to do that. You want to always make sure your building switch is on. And don't forget that you also need to turn on the building switch, and that is the area reduction factor switch right here, and then save the components. And now that is about it for how to load and calculate buildings. So now I want to talk to how to develop building data for your project, and I'll do that in the next video.